put pictures on the screen because I really want you to use what God gave you. It's always way more powerful. So picture this. It's Sunday morning, round about this time. Okay? Jerusalem is packed. Usually there's about 50,000 inhabitants in the city of Jerusalem. But on this Sunday morning, we are between 2 million and 2.5 million people in the same streets. Can you feel what it feels like? Can you imagine everybody on your doorstep just messing if you live in the main street, for example? How do we know it's 2.5 million, by the way? Well, there's a historian by the name of, I guess in English, he would be called Josephus. And he said that there were 256,000 lambs slaughtered on that day. It's part of the religious, ceremonies of the day. Now, 256,000 lambs, each family needed a lamb to offer. How big would the families be? Easily 10. Most of them had 12 sons, not counting the girls in the household. So, times 10, 256,000 lambs, you get to more than 2.5 million people. That's a lot of people. And if you've been to Jerusalem, it's not the wide streets that we have down in Seattle. Can you imagine what the street smells like? Animals. I guess some good food if you like that kind of street food. I don't. Sweat. But the biggest thing that you can smell is expectancy. There's something in the air and it's about to happen. And in the midst of all of this semi-chaos, suddenly all their eyes turned up in one direction. And everybody was, what? Look. And there comes a man riding on a donkey. Well, there were probably thousands of donkeys. The little child's asking, which one? But you see, there's a story behind the story about that man on that donkey. Now just please take note, he's not coming with a war horse. He's not coming with a chariot, but a meek and mild little donkey. And the crowd goes absolutely wild. They're waving palm branches like the little kids this morning. They're throwing their best cloaks on the floor in front of him. And they're shouting on the top of their lungs. Or is it at the top of their lungs? Sorry. Let's just read this together. Every time, why don't you just, try your best. Don't shout, but shout, Let's do that first part until heaven together. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest heaven. Thank you very much. The guys in Rustenburg and Zimbabwe this morning, she said he's there this morning, and the guys in Germany, and all the guys, of course, in Idaho. I didn't hear you guys. So let's do it once more. 1, 2, 3. Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest heaven. When Jesus entered Jerusalem, the whole city was, there's the word, stirred. Everybody's asking, what, huh? Who is this? And the crowds answered, this is Jesus, the prophet from Nazareth in Galilee. Now, this is history, friends. It's not something that we read in a fable in some book. This is history. It's written down. It's proven. Matthew 21. When Jesus entered, the whole city was stirred, we just read. Another translation said the whole city was shaken. The original text is the word seismos, and you know what word we got from that? Seismic. It's like an earthquake. Everything was, what? This was a big moment. Jerusalem trembled. And if you're anything like me, you're asking, and why? Why are they stirred about a man, just another man coming down the hill with another donkey? Why? Why the branches? Why the cloaks? Why Hosanna? And why a donkey and not a chariot? Well, let me take you back. Centuries before, on a day like this, the story is written down in 2 Kings chapter 9, also a true story. Crowds also laid down their cloaks in front of a king. The king's name is Jehu. And it was the day of his coronation. 2 Kings 9, 1 through 13, you read it there. It's not a new thing to honor your king with taking out of your best clothes and just putting it down for him to trample upon or something like that. But here's the thing, this king, right after his coronation, the very first thing he said is, we're going to go to war. We're going to get rid of all our enemies, and he did. And now you should start to understand what was happening. Jerusalem was under oppression by the Roman government. And there was an expectation in the streets that man will come to set us free, just like a couple centuries ago with King Jehu. He will set us free. And boy, were they right. They were going to be set free, just like all of us, but not in the way that they were expecting. It's going to be a rude awakening, big surprise. They will be set free. We can be set free of this very day, but not by the sword, but by the love on the cross. Friends, once we understand what was actually happening here behind the scenes, once we see what Jesus was doing on purpose, step by deliberate step, if we understand that, we too cannot help but get rid of the best and just lay it all before him. Therefore, we sing songs in churches like this that's all about surrender. I give you my all. Scott sang it this morning. It's normal. We also would want to shout Hosanna as well. So, can I tell you what was going on behind the scenes right here? You ready? Thank you, David. David gave me permission. Let's go. The first thing I want to say was, this was not a coincidence. What was happening was not just a random thing that happened. It was planned. It was purposefully planned. Jesus engineered this moment. Let's look at verse 1 of this chapter once again. Jesus sends two disciples. It's on the screen. Go to the village ahead of you, and at once you will find a donkey tied up there with her colt by her. Untie them and bring them to me. If anyone says anything to you, say that the Lord needs them, and he will send them right away. All planned. Never spoken to this guy to organize it, but in God's powerful omnipotence, it was all planned in the Spirit. Go to this very specific village. You will find a donkey there. Imagine the donkey just wanted to take a leak and just walked away and they couldn't find him. But no, because it's God's planning, it's going to work. The donkey was there, a specific donkey, tied up with her colt. Untie them. If anyone want to know, what are you doing? Just tell them the Lord needs them. And they will let him go. Imagine that. It's your donkey, and somebody is busy untying your donkey. What are you doing? the Lord needs him. Oh, absolutely, sure, take my donkey. That's God's working. This is not Jesus improvising. He's directing everything. And why a donkey? Well, let me tell you about a prophecy that happened 500 years before. This nation's 250 years old, they say. Double that. A prophecy without email, without internet. And it's going to come into fruition exactly the way it was prophesied because of God. Zechariah 9:9, rejoice greatly, daughter Zion. Shout, Jerusalem, see your king comes to you, righteous and victorious, lowly and riding on a colt, the foal of a donkey. Can you understand why this crowd went just ballistic, seismic? Because it's happening. This is the day, this is the time. It's happening. And when they see Jesus coming down the Mount of Olives on a donkey, they connected the dots instantly. Now remember, there was a history of this man. All the newspapers were speaking about him, what he did, and all of that. This is him. This is the King Zechariah was talking about. This is the man. But notice something. Zechariah says that the king comes righteous and victorious. And then immediately says lowly, riding a donkey. And it seems like this crowd somehow missed it a bit, because the previous one came with a chariot and a sword, and this one with a donkey on purpose. And the ancient world kings rode horses when they were coming to conquer. But when you have conquered, when you are the victor, you come with empty hands to show we're in peace now. The days of war are done and over. They rode donkeys when they were coming in peace. Jesus is not coming to conquer with a sword. He's coming with hands open, so wide open that it fitted on a cross. And it started on Palm Sunday. He's walking into enemy territory. You must understand the Romans were in charge. There were guards watching everything, everywhere. The city of religious power, the Jewish religious headquarters were there. The temple was there. And they didn't like this man that was stirring in their religious stuff. There was political pressure. And all of this would literally kill him just 5 days from now. And he's walking in with empty hands, victorious, because it was all planned. Is this a weakness? Or is this perhaps the most courageous thing that anybody, anywhere in history ever did? This is Jesus for you. My second thought. What does Hosanna actually mean? Do you know? Let's talk about this word Hosanna. We just said, Hosanna! As if, yippee! We've heard it in church. We sang it this morning. I can probably count 10 other songs that says Hosanna, and usually they go with Hosanna! But do we know what it actually means? Hosanna is a Hebrew word pronounced Hoshiana, and it comes from Psalm 118, verse 25. It's on the screen. Lord, save us. Translated, Hoshiana. It comes from help us, Lord. Grant us success. So blessed is he who comes to do this thing in the name of the Lord. Ana Adonai Hoshiana. Ana Adonai Hashlichana in Hebrew. Please, Lord, save us. Please, Lord, grant us success. Hosanna in English means help, rescue, a desperate cry. I need help. So ironically, it's not a cheerful word. It should be Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest. It's the word that you use when you're drowning. Hosanna, Hoshiana. It's when you hit rock bottom. It's when you run out of options. You choose to use this word. It's not a yippee kind of a word. It's, can somebody please just help me kind of a word. So how did it come that we clap and sing and wave palms, and we teach our kids to do this, to honor God? I don't have any other way but to sort of give you a picture. I see my little daughter Ella, that you guys know, when she was about a pickaninny of this size, and she wanted candy. And you know how they get upset. Candy, candy, please. I want candy. Can I have candy, please? And then mommy comes out of the room with some candy. And it's the same word, but it goes, candy, please, yes. Because you see the answer. You see the response. You see the good news, but you still have to ask for it because you don't have it in your pocket yet. For the past 450 years, these people have been calling out, prayed out loud, torn their clothes, have ceremonies, slaughtering animals, saying, please, Lord, speak to us. Because there's been radio silence for 400 years from God's side, by the way. So we're desperate. Anything, just speak to us. And suddenly, Hoshiana is a prayer that became a celebration. It's, I am desperate, and I know exactly how this is going to play out. I see the answer to my desperation. This is the most honest way of worship I can think of. We understanding how hopeless we are, how terrible this world is around us that we observe everywhere we go. But yet we celebrate looking in his eyes, asking, because we know he can. Amen? They were quoting Psalm 118. It was a song that they sang. Do you know when they usually sang this song? It was during the Feast of Passover, the festival that commemorates how God rescued his people from slavery in Egypt. Isn't it crazy how we constantly find ourselves in slavery, bondage, bound up with things or people or ourselves, and then we just need God all over again? Same with them. So when the crowd chanted Psalm 118, it was Jesus riding into Jerusalem. They were saying what he did with the Red Sea. You remember that story? They came out of Egypt and they walked into the Red Sea, and there was no way out, and the Egyptians were on their way to kill them. And God opened. It's the same kind of thing. God, what you did for them, you can do for us. And there you're coming down the mountain. Yes, Hoshiana, help us, Lord, but ready to go. They were connecting the dots. A new exodus, a new rescue, a new salvation. And they were not wrong, were they? They just didn't know yet how it would happen. And neither would we until Friday afternoon, 6:30. We're waiting for you. Come early, 5:30 for a meal, and then 6:30. We're going to reveal, as if you don't know anything, what's going to happen. My third idea this morning. The Mount of Olives was a moment, and where Jesus starts this whole thing, should matter to us. Where exactly does he start this procession? Anybody knows? On the Mount of Olives. It's just to the east of Jerusalem, specifically from the village of Bethphage on the eastern slope. This little detail, friends, is not coincidence. Again, it was all directed by God's big plan. You see, the prophet Ezekiel in chapter 11 saw a devastating moment in his prophecy. He saw God's glory, meaning he's manifested. You could feel it, touch it, see it, glory, leave the temple. That is unimaginable. From miles and miles and miles, people would come to the temple to meet with God. And you could see the presence of God leaving. And just the empty building is left behind. A building like any other. By the way, that is the picture of us without God. The richness of his presence versus the emptiness without him. This was God abandoning the temple because of the persistent rebellion from his people. They kept choosing their own ways, their own foolishness, instead of following God's principles that always lead to life in fullness. The tragedy is not that the people left God. They did that a long time ago. But it is that God finally left them. A dangerous, dangerous place. And for the next 400 years, nothing. In the absence of the presence of God in our lives, things always go terribly wrong. So fast forward to Palm Sunday, Matthew 21. Jesus is approaching Jerusalem. And you know what it means? His presence is returning. He's on his way to the temple. From Mount of Olives, the same place where his presence departed so many years ago, riding a donkey, fulfilling the prophecy from Zechariah 9:9, is being fulfilled right before their eyes, and he's entering the city of Jerusalem. Ezekiel 11:23. The glory of God leaves from the Temple Mount, from Mount of Olives, sorry. Matthew 21, the glory of God returns to the city from the same Mount of Olives. But here's the twist. Here's the thing. The glory left as a cloud, but it's coming back in the shape of a person with a smile in the face and open arms. John 1:14 says, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. We have seen his glory. The same Word that left Mount of Olives is returning. In the book of Ezekiel, God leaves the temple. In the Gospel of John, Jesus is the new temple. We read about it, John 2, verse 19. He is the new temple. What everybody used to find in a building, we now find in him. And his arms are wide open for all of us. So the entry into Jerusalem is no longer God's presence returning to a building, but returning to each one of us. Isn't it amazing? Isn't it just fantastic how this whole thing is playing out in front of our eyes even? Hosanna. Hosanna. We're still desperate for his presence, but we know it's to be found in him. 500 years of silence, absence of the presence of God until this very day, Palm Sunday. The glory shows up again on the same mountain, coming down the same road. Jesus starts his walk exactly where God said he would. He is the true victorious King. Let me get to my last thought. Why all of this? Why It feels like he didn't have anything to do. And he dreamed up all of this little detail, donkeys and, palms. And why would he do all of this? Well, he walked in for us. He walked in for my parents. He walked in for your children and your grandchildren. He chose to walk in to Jerusalem for us. By this point in the story, Jesus has already been told his time is short. He knows what's lying ahead of him. The religious leaders absolutely want him dead. Judas is about to betray him. Remember that very evening. Judas is about to just turn the whole thing sad for those that was close to him. And then the cross is 5 days away. He could have stayed in Galilee. He could have avoided Jerusalem entirely. He could have just not shown up. He didn't walk. Just because he was taking a walk. This was planned. On purpose, intentionally, he came to us. Publicly, prophetically, for us. John 12:27. It gives us a little window of what Jesus was going through at that moment. My soul is troubled. And what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour? Notice the question mark. Because that's an option. I could. No. It was for this very reason I came to this very hour. He's human as he was God. His soul was troubled. He's not floating above the pain and all of that. He knows what's awaiting him, and he feels it because of his omnipotence. He feels it already. He still knows the first little tear that you had when you were born. He still remembers it. He still feels it because that's who he is. He never forgets anything until it's sin that we ask him to forgive. And he says, this is why I came. This is scandalous grace, my friends. When Jesus rides into Jerusalem to shouts of Hosanna, the crowds is praising him with one voice, getting ready to crucify him with the other. 5 days later, crucify, crucify. One day, Hosanna, Hosanna. Next day, crucify, crucify. That's people for you. Some scholars say that it's exactly the same crowd because they were so upset. We made this whole fuss. We took off our clothes for you and now you're dying. Crucify him, man. He walked in anyway. Not that the crowd deserved it, right? But because he wanted to. He declares, my soul is troubled. The donkey, the psalm, the branches, all, it was for this very reason that I came. Let me land it personally this morning. We can keep talking about the history and what it all meant, but this is 2026. What does it mean for us? First, the crowd didn't had it all figured out. I don't. Maybe you've got, but I don't. They had mismatched expectations of God. I see this all the time. People think that they just quickly run to him, do some good stuff, and everything will fall into place. As if it's a transaction. I say a prayer, you answer it. I give you some money, you buy me a house. I do some good things at the work day at church, and you take care of my retirement. It's not a transaction, it's a relationship. They had mismatched expectations. They wanted a warrior king on a white horse, not a peaceful king on a donkey. But that's what they got. Some of them would be disappointed by Friday so much. Crucify him. That's how much. Some would be devastated. I don't know about you, but there's times that Jesus disappointed me in my life. Well, for that moment, and then 3 days later, I saw, something like that. Maybe this morning you are carrying something heavy. Maybe you are praying the prayer of Hosanna. A season that makes no sense. A relationship that's broken and it's in pieces. A habit that you cannot shake. A grief that you are struggling to move past somehow. And a question about whether God even knows your name. Just because of how long things have been going on. Would you cry out to him this morning, Hosanna? Save me, Lord. But with the expectancy that he can. Maybe you've got it together on the outside, but something is hollow on the inside, and you've been performing this Christian thing instead of actually living it. Say Hosanna this morning. Save me, Lord. Maybe you just need to be reminded, in case life or busyness or cynicism has made you forget, that what Jesus did on Palm Sunday, physically, he want to do for us spiritually. It was not accidental. It was not reluctant. He want to set you free, give you life in abundance. He walked in on purpose. He walked in publicly, but please know that he walked in for you. As the band comes forward, I just want to tell you how this is going to play out. Today, on Palm Sunday, I want you to know that he walked in for us. He came, he showed up, he chose Jerusalem as he's choosing you today. But Friday, 6:30, we're going to talk about how he did not walk out on us. It's still about us. He stayed when he could have left on the cross. He didn't run, he stayed. And next Sunday at 10, he walked out of the grave for us all over again. He walked out for us. The whole gospel is a walk, it's a journey, it's communal movement together. And I invite you to be part of this. Can we close this session this morning? And let's say, Hosanna, 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 with the understanding that, Lord, on the one side, I know I need you. And on the other side, thank you. I know you are all that I need. You ready? Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest.